What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Destiny Creates tutorial, and today I'm going to show you how to transcode your ZRAW footage. And I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. If you guys have any questions or want me to go more in depth on this and kind of explore all the options here for the ZRAW codec and other solutions, then drop me a comment down in the description below and I'll get right on it. So we are going to be using Assimilate Scratch. Here's the scenario. I shot a scene completely in ZRAW. My Premiere Pro installation is messed up and I cannot use Premiere Pro. I have to use Sony Vegas, which is what I prefer to use. But unfortunately, because I shot it in ZRAW, I can't directly import it to Vegas. So what do? I transcode it. Now you can use the ZRAW video suite to do this, but I personally don't like the UI very much for ZRAW video suite. And it's also kind of slow for the transcoding process. And they actually have a transcoder here. Video transcoder, but it's not that great. So I've personally used Assimilate Scratch before for PRORES footage, PRORES RAW specifically, but it does not support ZRAW natively, so that's why we are here. Link down in the description below. You're going to need to click this top one right here where it says v0.6.4 Windows for Assimilate Scratch. You must have Scratch. If you do not have Scratch, this tutorial is useless for you. What I can suggest is that if you are like everyone else out there and use Premiere for editing, you can use this option right here, v0.66 Windows for Adobe Premiere. That one's super easy. You just download it, extract it, whatever you gotta do. Although I don't think it zips it, and then you run the installer, and the installer is in English, so you'll be able to actually install it really quickly, super easy, and there's nothing really left for it. You'll be able to just go into Premiere Pro and import your footage. However, while it lets you import your footage, you cannot change anything on it. You can't change the ISO. You can't change the tint or the color temperature. You can't change any of that stuff like you can on Scratch, which is designed for that. So that's why this tutorial is for Scratch. So if you bought a Ninja 5, which CCAM suggests anyways, you'll have Scratch. So going on from there, actually don't have this pulled up. I meant to have it pulled up. So I already downloaded this, but you just go to click that top option. It'll take you to the Google Drive. You just download this. Super simple, super easy, and it brings you to this. Now I've already installed it, so it's going to show a bit of a different menu for me than it would for you, but you will see it in Chinese. So the buttons that you need to click are highlighted in blue, so you can just click those and it'll do it for you. Same way with a fresh install. You just click the blue button and it'll get you to where you need to be. If the blue button doesn't show up, it's basically your run-of-the-mill installer. So I mean, you just kind of, there's arrows here that kind of show you where to go, so you'll just hit those arrows and you should be just fine. So after installing it, you're going to open up Assimilate Scratch, and I already have mine open, and you're going to click on import clips and you're going to select your ZRAW clips. And you're going to set the frame rate to whatever you want it to be. Mine was set to 23.976 earlier as a test that I was doing, but my footage was shot at 29.970, so make sure to have that set. And your aspect ratio should be square, or should be set to custom and just kind of automatic. This should just automatically be the way it should. If you're doing something else, you might change this setting, but I haven't had to change the setting because I shoot in Cinema 6K. So okay, go ahead and click on open and it will load into your cursor. You'll see what I mean in just a second here. Now it's in my cursor. I'm going to place this on the timeline by just clicking anywhere on it, and now all the clips are on the timeline. I can click on it. I can see all of the metadata here. If I double click it, then it brings me into this. Now yours might not show it in such a perfectly good square like mine. It might be a little bit big, it might be a little bit small. The best way to fix that is just hit this button here, fit image to display plus controls or hotkey home, and that should fix it for you. So now it should bring you to this by default, and here's where you can see the ZRAW tab, and you can change the Kelvin if you want. So like I can change it to cool, I can change it to warm, I can do whatever I want here, but I'm going to keep it to 3300, which is what it was set in camera to match my lighting. and then you can change the exposure value if you want. I typically don't change exposure values. I just haven't needed to. But if you need to, then you can feel free to, especially on the Zcam E2C. If you shoot ZRAW on that E2C, it can only go as low as 800. But if you shoot RAW, then you'll be able to lower it to 400 if you need. But I personally haven't had to do that, but it is useful. So you're going to adjust this as needed. And then in media, you can see a bunch of stuff. Color is detected as Rec 709. You can change it to Panasonic V-gamuts if you want, but I would just leave it as to Rec 709 or whatever it says it is. Now, just because it says it's Rec 709 does not mean that it is Rec 709. ZRAW does not import perfectly, so it can show things like this. So I would personally just leave this alone unless you really know what you're doing. Personally, I could change this, but it wouldn't really make much of a difference anyway. So now I'm going to just kind of skip all this other stuff since we're just transcoding and go to AV trim. Now this is really, really important because this is where you're going to trim the start and ending of your clips. Matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and cut down on the clips we don't need. So I know for a fact that this one that starts off blurry is one scene. I need that. So I'm going to move that down. Over here, this only took 2 takes. I don't need the first take. I need the second take. This one took multiple takes, but we ended up getting it. Took 4 takes. I'm going to keep that last one. Cool. So now they're all back to back. Now I did slate for this, so I'm just going to go to the part of each clip where it shows that I've slated. Here I can see my slate, and I know that around here I actually clapped it down. Just going to go down to where that's at. Claps down. And then I'm going to go to the scene end. Set the ending, and it's just rinse and repeat. So you're just going to do this for every single clip that you have if you slated. Now, if you didn't slate, you might not need to do that. However, even if you didn't slate, I still highly suggest that you change this, the start and end time for your clips. I really suggest that you do this. It's a lot better for organization. Maybe you took a couple seconds to say action before you started or whatnot. It's a lot better if you do it that way, at least in my opinion, because what the problem is that you're gonna have to basically re-render all of this footage. So whenever you do that, it's really resource intensive, and it might take a really long time to actually get the footage rendered, especially if you don't have a really good PC. My PC is pretty strong, and it still struggles to render this really quickly because it's 6K footage. So just keep that in mind, you know, especially if you're shooting on the higher frame rate cameras. It might be a little bit difficult because, or not the frame rate too, but the high resolution cameras might be more difficult for your computer. So anyways, as you can see, we have now cut down our clips to where we want it to be. This software is bugging on me. Okay, so now you can do 2 things here. You can select which clips you want, click this render button by export, and then you can have it as selected shots or the entire timeline. I'm just going to select all of them and then keep it on selected shots. It's just a habit. I don't know why I do it. Format, I'm going to keep same as source. Codec, you can do all kinds of things here. Personally, I prefer Apple PRORES, but just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and shoot for 12-bit high on H.265, and it's going to go to the decoded folder on my hard drive. I'm going to go ahead and click OK and then yes to confirm I did want to do that, and now you can see it's transcoding. So now I'm actually going to stop this because it's very, very intensive. But I'm going to explain what you're seeing here. So that's the time elapsed, that's the time remaining, and that's the frames per second. And this is showing you the date and the time that it was processed and the path that it is being sent to. This also shows you the range of frames that it's going to be rendering, and this shows you the format and which timeline it came from. And then what I did was stop it, but I can actually restart it if I want to, and I can delete the existing media if I want, which I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. And now as you can see, it has restarted, and it says I've got about 13 minutes, roughly go 5 to 10 minutes over what it says, and that's what it should be. So I would say 15, 16 minutes, and it'll be done. So I hope that you found this tutorial helpful. I know that editing ZRAW footage is definitely it's difficult. It's not easy. It's not an easy codec to work with, but it's definitely worth it, especially if you're shooting Zcam, because RAW is always better than 8-bit or whatever you're working with, where it's all hard coded in. So hope you found this helpful. Stay tuned for more content. Any questions or any requests, go ahead and hit me up in the comment section and I'll get it done for you.